Good evening and welcome into yet another edition of the summer break version of. There you go. You gotta get it switched around. Whoa! Stop playing over there. We are the R&R Sports Report. We are very unprofessional and not ready to do this at all. I am your host Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Robert Hagen. He's over there. There he is. How's it going?
But it is
Come
great.
on, Robert. Figure out your directions.
I'm directionally challenged. I've been directionally challenged all my life. No, I'm not anywhere close to what my wife is so directionally challenged. You tell her to go north, she says, "What direction is that?" She says, "Whatever way my car is facing." So that's what I've dealt with for 24 years.
Brett Gardner hitting a home run to take the lead for the Yankees as we get started. It's a good day. What is this? Episode 42? Is that what you're pointing out?
42.
22? I don't know anymore.
I can't believe that we're that close to a full year. We're even closer to getting back into the studio over at LC, which excited to do that. Get that going.
Studio's probably about a month away. Preseason football is just a couple of weeks away. The NFL Bowling League is a little over a month away and full again, and just it's crazy how fast that thing went. It's getting exciting. I think that's the big thing. And then of course we start getting excited, and then that old C word keeps popping back up in the news as a new variant, and we'll see what happens. Guys, just
hey,
I can't be happy.
Exactly. Hey, I'm excited to get you out, at least on the driving range here. We got 3 weeks until our golf and bowling tournament. We got to get you out on the links, or even in the driving range, just to hit a few here in the next week or so.
We gotta figure this out. I still owe you lunch from our NBA bet. NBA could be ending tonight. Game 6 just about to get underway, which kind of messed up our plans. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I still owe you lunch because your teams did far better than mine, and it's starting to look like I'm going to owe you a second lunch because the Arizona Diamondbacks single-handedly are making sure that I lose. It's getting very, very rough. So, yeah, maybe we'll have to do a lunch and go golf 18 at some point.
Well, what's funny is you also have the Orioles in that too, just not to rub it in anymore, but you have the bottom two in our power rankings. So I thought I'd just bring that up for a quick little stab, just a little bit there.
If we could just get rid of our bottom two teams, I would have a chance. But those two teams are just making it really, really rough. So I had brought up Game 6 of the NBA Finals. We were going to have a really fun segment to start the show. If you don't follow the Time Spent Poorly Network crew, definitely go check them out. They have a sports podcast that comes out every Saturday, or most Saturdays. They're busy guys over there. And I had joked with their host, Derek, about their claim that this year's NBA Olympic team could possibly be the greatest of all time. And then they go out and lose 2 exhibition games and prove my point. But they spent basically 40 minutes of their hour-long show on Saturday making fun of my take that the Dream Team is the best Olympic team of all time. So we were going to have Zach Swan on, who is part of that show, and we were going to debate Dream Team versus Redeem Team. That was going to be the plan. We were going to have some fun with it, throw out some names, and just have a good time. Mate Robert be our mediator of sorts. But then he remembered, because he's a huge NBA fan and completely forgot the schedule, that Game 6 started exactly when we started our podcast this week. So he has asked for another week to prepare and get himself ready for the butt whooping that I will be giving him in that debate. So that will be next week. We will start the show next week. Dream Team versus Redeem Team. The R&R Sports Report versus the Time Spent Poorly Network. So give us your takes about that now, and we'll be ready for you next week.
So you're saying I should wear my number 9 Michael Jordan jersey from the Dream Team?
Yeah, you'll be a completely unbiased mediator if you're wearing that. It'd be great. So yeah, we will get into that next week. Again, don't forget, at the top of next hour, we'll start our 30 minutes of nonstop NFL coverage. We will do that all the way to the regular season. And then once the regular season starts, we'll do something. Whether we need to extend the show or duplicate the show, or because there's just no time. It was the way we did the show last year worked out so beautifully because of COVID. Nothing was happening locally, so we could just talk about a bunch of the random stuff that was going on in the second hour and just focus on college football and the NFL for the first hour. We can't do that this year because we're going to have Lewiston and Clarkson football, and we're going to have soccer, and we're going to have cross country, and we're going to have LC volleyball. We're going to just, there's going to be a lot going on locally that we can't not cover because that's what we're here for. But we want to give the NFL and college football its due, and we know that's what brings in the viewership, and that's what brings out the debates. So I don't know. We got a month to figure it out, but for now, in about 55 minutes, we'll give you plenty of NFL talk. But Robert, you got some news that you posted on our Facebook page today.
Yeah, big news coming here from out of the valley, and we try to follow the alum and all that. Trayvon Allen is back in the news this week. I tried to reach out to him. I think he is playing in the in the basketball tournament that's down, I believe, in Vegas right now. That's that big tournament they did last year. I believe that's where he's at. But he made the news earlier this morning as he is signing his second year deal to play European basketball. This year, he's going to be in Italy. Last year he was in Poland. This year he is playing with Cancun in Italy. So big exciting news for Trayvon Allen, and was trying to get him on, but I believe he is getting stuff going on with that other tournament. So hopefully got a message into him. Maybe we can get something recorded for next week. Love to chat with him before he heads back across the pond to go and play for the green, the white, and the red.
Do we know the team name for this team?
It's just Cancun right now is what he had posted. You really couldn't make out the logo from the team. That's what I wanted to kind of to touch base with him, but it says the city of Cancun. So I believe there's only one team in Cancun because Cancun is not very big. I think I saw a very low population. So
all right, let's play a game. You are the mayor of Cancun. They have this basketball team there, and they need a nickname. And you are in charge of giving Cancun their nickname. What do you got?
Boy, the name, I just don't know. They say they're the Aqua San Bernardo Cancun roster. So, I don't know where to go with that. That was the team. There was really no nickname to follow. So, if I'm Cancun, and knowing that there's more teams in Italy, maybe I would look location. I didn't really even look location to see exactly where Cancun is at. So maybe the Cancun Ocean Riders. I don't know.
Looks like Cancun is at the very north of
so
Italy,
not near the ocean.
And according to Wikipedia, there's under sport, it has one line, and it's the Canestro Cancun. The basketball club of the city won the European Champions Cup twice in 1982 and 1983. So that's what they're called, but I'm calling them the Cancun Cantaloupes. That's the team name. I'm gonna get.
Well, hopefully we get Trayvon on here in the next week or so before he heads back across the pond. He's been quite busy. See if you follow him on his YouTube channel or anything like that. He went up and worked out up at U of I up with the Vandals. He's done some stuff back in Detroit. He played in a couple of gyms back there, went and visited some family. So he's a big, busy boy right now.
All right, let's get into our top stories. Let's start with Robert. What do you got?
You got to start with me this week? Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Well, here's the biggest thing. We were getting ready. We're 3 days, count them, 3 days from the Tokyo Olympics. And that's the key. It's a maybe right now. It's still a possibility that we do not get the 2020 Olympics started in Tokyo. And some big things have been coming out of over there right now. The guy that's behind it says it's still a possibility in the 11th hour to call it off. And some of these sponsors are losing and changing their sponsorship. Toyota has pulled out, who is a
That's
huge,
the big one. They're
that's the
huge
biggest one.
sponsor over there. Yeah.
And when you hear some of the people in Tokyo say, we don't want it here, it's a little scary. So just a few numbers to throw out at you. There's over 11,000 people that are staying as athletes just alone in what they call the village. In the village, they have now, as of today, and they're, don't quote me, I want to say they're 14 hours ahead of us. I think it's about 14 hours ahead of us. So a lot of these reports came out about 9 o'clock this morning, our time, and they said over 70 cases now of COVID cases in the village. So
Tokyo is 16 hours ahead of us. It's 10:11 a.m. Wednesday right now.
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of the stuff that we saw, came out about 9 o'clock this morning. So, but, already 70 cases already confirmed. So it's still in limbo whether or not we're going to get things going. 2 sports start tomorrow, early sports, soccer and softball do start tomorrow, even though they're earlier than the rest of
Actually, they're going on right now.
They're Wednesdays, so they should be going right now. So, but 3 big names, for the USA right now that are not going to be participating because of COVID. We're looking at the women's tennis team, Coco Gauff. She is not playing. Women's gymnast Kara Aker, and also a big name for men's basketball, Bradley Beal. Were those names that were not going to be for COVID. So maybe, do you play if you are, do you want to see it happen? That's the first thing, knowing that the citizens of Tokyo, citizens of Japan don't want it there. What would you do?
Well, I don't think that Tokyo wants it because they're not going to get any benefit from it. Because you can't have spectators, so you're not going to get all of these people coming from all these different countries, which is basically going to give you all of this revenue from all of the vacationers and
especially after
the word I'm thinking of right now, but
especially after they built that huge stadium that they did. And I think they said that with all the money put in, they were at the 1 billion mark of all of the stuff they put into this place.
I'm sure Tokyo is hoping, let's just wait 1 more year. If I'm an athlete, I want to play. Obviously, you've had to wait an entire year for this. There are many people that this will be their only games. And you don't want to miss out on your opportunity. Obviously, putting in all of this hard work to earn your spot here and then have it be taken away again would be pretty heartbreaking. So it's a mix. As far as a fan goes, it's not going to feel like the Olympics with no fans there. My top story is going to talk about exactly that. So I don't want to see it happen just because it's just going to feel so off and so strange as it is. And now with a bunch of the cases popping up over there, I love the controversy going on about the cardboard beds and how that a fake story came out saying that they created the cardboard bed so that the Olympians wouldn't have sex, because the reports over the last decade or so is how much sex goes down between all the Olympians during the 2 or 3 weeks or however long the Olympics go. So they created these cardboard beds so they wouldn't. And then an Olympian started jumping on his bed, showing that no, it's just a recycling matter, and it's the fake story of it. No, it's to stop fornication. No, it's not. Olympians will find a way. But it just, the funny stories about that are interesting. But I don't want to see the Olympics without fans. That's the whole point of it, is getting all of your a bunch of people from your country in there to root you on and represent your country, and then we're gonna watch like the 200 meters, and somebody's gonna break a world record to crickets. It just, I don't get it.
Yeah, and you say that there's so many stories going on, and a couple of the ones that we'll talk about really quick that jumped out to me. How about the one story today that comes out that the Norwegian women's handball team is now fined $1,700 because they wear shorts instead of the bikini bottoms. If you look at it, the men's handball teams, all the men handball teams, all they have to do is wear shorts. And we're talking about the women from Norwegian wearing their spandex short. So they're a tight fitting short and everything. They look nice. And they're fined $1,700 instead of wearing bikini bottoms.
And the fact that you even they still look nice. I don't care what they look like.
Yeah.
I watched Philip DeFranco today. He's a YouTuber, and I will repeat his sentiments. Do the shorts give these girls a advantage in the Olympics? No. Then F off. Who cares?
Yeah. I'm the same way. You look at some, and I hate to turn it into this direction, but it's the same thing. You and I bowling, and we bowl in state tournaments or anything like that, and national tournaments. These women get to wear skirts, in the bowling side or anything like that. If the men are wearing like a nice shorts, like a khaki shorts, why are they saying no? You can't do that. You have to wear slacks. It's the same idea. Come on, guys. We're in 2021. Move on. Let's get over the whole dress code thing. This whole shorts and bikini bottoms makes absolutely no sense. It's not going to change the way they could participate. For me, and you know this, even in our league, I don't think I ever wear jeans. I wear shorts just in case I have to have my knee brace on. Easier things to deal with. I mean, that just doesn't make sense.
But that's a completely different story because neither of us are wearing something while we bowl either to look sexier or to be comfy, but everyone's upset because
Come
we're
on
not
now.
looking sexy.
This is sexy already. Come on, you know that.
All right, well then you are banned from wearing shorts because they are too sexy, apparently, and we can't have that. But that's the whole point: is they're getting fined because the Olympics want them to wear the bikini bottoms, so that men will watch the women's handball. That is all. That's what they're getting fined for, and that's the gross part of it. Is just let them wear whatever the hell they want. It's not going to give them any advantage. It's not going to be a disadvantage. Obviously, I mean, it's whatever they're comfortable with. Let them do it.
So let the divers start wearing a two-piece bikini. I'm tired of the one, the one piece, and I want to watch them dive into the pool and see the midriff. I don't know. It's funny. How about the other story?
Weird that you want male divers to wear two-piece bikinis.
I was
This
talking
is
about
breaking news, Robert.
How about the other story for me that's also going on let's talk about the pressures. It's really tough for a lot of these participants. They go in, they're the best in their country or one of the top athletes, and they struggle even to get into a medaling round. Mm-hmm. How about the Ugandan weightlifter Julius Sikitoliko?
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, he disappears out of his hotel room. He does not. He misses qualifying for his country, and he disappears out of his hotel room. And he leaves a note saying that he does not want to go back to his country because he's ashamed he did not make the cut to get into weightlifting. We're talking about Uganda, and we were looking at this. Uganda is like 150th out of 183 countries in their workout index, meaning they don't have all the stuff to really train and all that. Mm-hmm. But for a guy that does not make the cut, does not make his team for his country, he doesn't want to go back because he's afraid of the shame that he gets.
It sucks. It absolutely sucks that somebody feels that way. Hopefully, he kind of, as time goes on, he'll get over it. And I'm sure they aren't going to shame him. They're not going to make him walk the streets and throw barbells at him because he didn't make the Olympic team. But I get it. I mean, everyone has their self-doubts and self-pity over this stuff. If you fail to do anything, whether it's athletically or just any kind of competition. If you fail, of course, you're going to feel down. And obviously, he put so much pressure on himself that when he didn't make the team, he wanted to bail, and that sucks. And that, again, hopefully, it just is a small time thing for him, and he's going to be able to get over it eventually. But
Well, they did find.
hopefully, he's not upset and worried because there's legit pressure over there.
Oh yeah. Well, they did end up finding him today. Japanese officials did find him in a smaller town just away from Tokyo, but he was supposed to be heading back to his country today. We'll see what that is. But for me, we're down to a few days. Let's hope that they get it rolling. It sucks. No spectators. Tokyo won't make the money that they should based on this, but hopefully we get the 2020 Olympics in the books.
Does no fans change your feeling of watching it? Like,
I don't think so.
I feel like I'm going to watch less Olympics this year because the feeling's just going to be weird.
I think it's going to be tougher, but I mean, we dealt with the whole thing with no fans during baseball, them pumping in sound. I kind of want to hear what that happens to be, going into the diving, which we talked about. I'm a huge diving and water polo, those kind of events. So I like to see, and those are usually loud and I don't want to say obnoxious, but they're loud. I mean, they really get out there. I can't wait to hear what some of those things are. And, like the baseball, having no fans there, softball, same way. But, I'm probably going to watch the same events I do, but, I don't watch more than about 10 events during the summer anyway. So it'll be interesting.
All right, let's get on to my story, which changed multiple times. Robert was making fun of me before the show starts, but it was supposed to be Dream Team versus Redeem Team, and it messed everything up. Thanks a lot, Zach. But, we haven't talked wrestling here on the show since WrestleMania, I think. WWE had live events for the first time in well over a year, other than WrestleMania, where they were able to put like 20%, 30% full capacity for WrestleMania, which was a good feeling. But now you get full stadiums here, full arenas down in Texas. It started with SmackDown, then you had Money in the Bank on Sunday and Raw on Monday. And I just have to say, as a wrestling fan, what a huge difference the crowd makes. Not only just for the atmosphere of it, but it helps the performers perform better. I think the WWE pushed storylines along because over the last few months, they've just kind of been dragging their feet, waiting for crowds to come back. So now it's nice to see them pushing things forward. I thought all three shows that I watched this week were very, very good. Some of the better stuff I've seen all year from the WWE. And maybe that's just because of crowd. But again, Money in the Bank was amazing. Like, there wasn't a match that I would even categorize as okay. Every match was great. Charlotte and Rhea Ripley completely blew the roof off of that place. It was fantastic. The two ladder matches were both way over the top. I loved Bobby just crushing Kofi. It just pushes him as that monster heel, and it's not going to hurt Kofi. Kofi will be just fine from it. And of course, Roman and Edge to end the night. Just a great story. You get to see Cena return to set up a couple of matches for SummerSlam. I thought all in all, Money in the Bank, maybe just behind day one of WrestleMania as far as show of the year for WWE, but it was great. What did you get to watch it? Or
yeah, I was excited to see things back. As I jumped back into wrestling, right about the time we started the show 42 episodes ago. So it was nice to finally get back into that because they've been wrestling in the Thunderdome. Jumping out there and getting Houston for SmackDown, and then you get Fort Worth for Money in the Bank, and then last night in Dallas. So the numbers were huge. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit with the Kofi and Bobby Lashley. I do agree with the outcome. I did like the outcome because, he's playing that heel. I like the idea of where the storyline went with him, getting on MVP on that he was in his mind, Kofi was making things right. I just would have thought Kofi would have put up a little bit bigger of a fight. It just seemed like there was absolutely no offense for Kofi whatsoever.
No.
And I know they wanted him to be. I'm going to basically kick his all the way back, but I would have figured they would have let Kofi have a couple of moments, but they
No,
really didn't.
the way they set up that whole match was Kofi Kingston continued to make fun of Bobby for partying too much and not taking it serious. And then the Monday before, Bobby went, fine, I'll be serious. So it made perfect sense that serious Bobby is someone you do not want to mess with. And now, of course, Bobby gets Goldberg at SummerSlam, which is not a match I'm looking forward to. But hopefully Goldberg, just does the honors and continues to push Bobby as this legit monster heel, kind of like what Brock Lesnar was a few years ago.
Yeah, and I'll agree with you. I did enjoy both ladder matches of Money in the Bank. I was a little shocked of who ended up winning the female one,
Yes.
going to Nikki, and I thought
Nikki ASH, the
yeah,
almost superhero. I love it.
I thought, I had a couple of the other girls. I was shocked how they all wanted to bury Alexis Bliss, which was cool. They kind of buried her under all the ladders there. And you knew that Drew McIntyre was not going to get through that match after they came out and pretty much took care of him. So I was quite impressed with that. And like you said, Edge and Roman Reigns was a great match. But I think probably the match of the night had to be Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley. Was thrown for a little bit of a loop on Raw, but I'll let you get into that one. But so quick of a title defense. So that kind of turned it up a little bit for me.
Yeah, it was interesting to see Nikki cash in and be successful already. But I think that was because of the crowd. They wanted that post WrestleMania feel to it. I expect Becky Lynch to show up on Friday. She's been teasing it forever. I think she would have shown up on Raw, but with the Bayley injury, where she's out now for 9 months, the women's division on SmackDown is a bit weak. I know they just brought up Tegan Knox and Shotzi Blackheart. But neither of them are ready for the main event for the women's division. So putting Becky over there, I think, is a smart move. And bringing Sasha Banks back would be great. She hasn't been around since Mania either. But yeah, I think all three shows, again, really delivered. I know AEW has been doing some really interesting stuff over there. So again, you get crowd back. It's great, which again just shows that I'm nervous for the Olympics with the no crowd. And it shows with all of these other sports too. NBA Finals with the crowd has been going nuts. It's nice to hear the crowd in New York, except for, let's get into MLB news now, one moronic fan for the New York Yankees, which then Robert, in his ultimate wisdom, as Gary Sanchez puts one into that crowd. Thank you, Gary Sanchez. Perfect timing on that. Robert, on his power rankings, has to make fun of all Yankee fans because apparently we were all like this idiot. As he throws a baseball at Alex Verdugo, who's playing left field for the Boston Red Sox on Saturday. Thank God for Major League Baseball making the right decision and banning this doofus from all MLB stadiums for life, though I have zero clue how they're going to be able to do that and keep an eye on all of these people like rushing into the stadium to start, but it's still a good sediment for them to have.
Yeah, I think MLB did it right. And so did Boston and New York. Took full advantage of stopping everything, getting that guy out of there, and banning him. I'm like you. How are they going to do it? Is his face going to be on every every post, every going through, checking in for every one of them? It'll be interesting to see how they handle that. But here's the thing: we already know that rivalry gets very. We've seen the fights. We've seen the Pedro throwing, throwing a pitchers. We've seen, the physicality, but for it to happen in a in the stands throwing at a player, I mean, there's no room for that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
We're playing a sport. We're excited to be back into it, but it goes to the same thing. And you and I've experienced it in Seattle. We went to the Ravens game, and 3 rows in front of us, a Seahawk fan and a Ravens fan get into a punching duel, just off to our side. I mean, it's fun to be competitive and have a good
Yes.
spirit about the competitiveness, but
Mhm.
when it gets physical and somebody ggets hurt, there's just no reason for any of that crap.
No, listen, and this is coming from somebody that the day, what was it, Sunday night, where the Yankees blew their 6-run lead in the ninth inning or 5-run lead. I was dead silent for 40 minutes. I didn't want to say a word. I was in shock. I was sad. I was disappointed. I was bummed. I'm all of those. So I take sports seriously, and I feel emotion from these sports, which you should.
Hmm.
Sometimes maybe I go a little farther. However, it's still a game. We're supposed to have fun with it. You and I can make fun of each other and our teams, whether it's the Mariners or the Yankees, the Jets, the Ravens, any of those. We're going to flip each other crap about, but at no point should it ever turn into a fist fight over it because, again, it's just a game, people.
You forgot about one team. You forgot about your Hawthorne Hawks. Just saying.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're welcome there for what the Hawks were able to do this week. We'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But yeah, it's just
Mhm.
some things just go way over the top, and then it gets even more over the top for the situation that happened in Washington, outside of Nationals Park. I actually was on break at work when that all went down, and then quickly was able to get on and scroll back to watch the live footage of it. If you have not heard yet, there was a shooting outside of Nationals Park. 4 people were injured in the incident. It happened outside the third base stands area, but you could hear the gunshots on the broadcast right as they were going to break. And when they came back, they were talking about how they were bunkered down in their studio, having no idea what was going on. From what I've seen, the Nationals PA announcer handled it really well. The cops handled it really well to keep people safe. But you have thousands of people in a ball field hearing gunshots and having no idea what direction they're coming from. It's a crazy scene. It was a crazy sight seeing fans rushing into the dugouts and players running out of the dugouts to go get their families to bring them into the locker room. Again, luckily it didn't go farther than that, but this weekend in baseball was nutty.
Yeah, it was just crazy. As we'll talk about, I was not aware of it. You were keeping me up to date as I was out of town. We'll talk about where I was at a little bit later in the show. But yeah, for you to be sending me texts and of what was going on, it was just nuts of where our society keeps going. And folks,
I know we were joking about COVID might come back and ruin our fun with the new variants and stuff, but I kind of want it because we came back and everyone's nuts,
Hmm.
and it's just not enjoyable to be around some people right now. So,
Yeah,
guys, can we remember how society was supposed to work, please?
yeah, 100%. 100%.
Back to my New York Yankees. They had COVID issues coming out of the All-Star break. 6 players ended up testing positive by the end of it, including Aaron Judge right before it was supposed to be Red Sox Yankees and the only game on Thursday, and I was excited to watch it. And then we had nothing. Nothing was going on Thursday, especially because golf, which you would watch on Thursday, was over there in England. So it was a 12 a.m. start our time. So it was I can't even watch golf instead of baseball. Just but then the Yankees went 2 of 3, so that was cool. But and then they lose Voit due to a knee bone bruise going into it. The Yankee lineup. I'm a Yankee fan. The Yankee lineup over their last 4 games has been a who's that?
Well, who started
And
for your
speaking of
buddy DJ LeMahieu doesn't play today because of a tummy issue, and so who's starting for him? Some guy that
he's a
hasn't,
catcher,
yeah, that
he's a
hasn't
backup
played.
catcher who hasn't even been on the Yankees. Brantley is at first base. You have Greg Allen, who's up to bat right now. He's been pretty good since they brought him up. But the funny thing is, as a Yankee fan, I kind of like this lineup because we have more lefties in the lineup. We have more speed at the lineup. The Yankees are actually trying to steal bases and playing small ball and playing what I want them to play. So maybe we just need to trade Aaron Judge and Stanton and all of these right-handed power hitters that's all they do and go back to small ball. Yankees, come on, it's working.
I would love to see more small ball, but you know darn good and well neither one of those guys will be leaving your lineup anytime
No,
soon.
especially Judge. Judge is going to get paid in the offseason.
Yeah, his
For sure.
contract. Yeah, his contract will be monstrous, if not finishing his career as a Yankee. So, don't see him being on the trade
No. And
deadline
again,
at all.
Judge has been very, very good. He was one of the few all-star caliber players on the Yankees in the first half. So I don't want to see Judge go. I'm just saying he hasn't been here. Yankees are 2-1 against Boston. They're leading Philadelphia. I just like seeing them attempt to steal bases and play hit and runs and try to manufacture some stuff. It's nice to see. Some injury notes, and there's two big ones. Jacob DeGrom placed on the IL with, again, he's had that forearm issue all year. They decided to be extra precautionary right now. Every time DeGrom has a forearm issue, he comes right back and is amazing. So that's what I'm expecting from him. And then Francisco Lindor placed on the IL with a oblique injury. That one looks a bit more rough for Lindor. And we didn't put it on the notes, but Mookie Betts has been in and out of the lineup since the All-Star break with an injury himself. He was rounding first and came up a little lame, but he's been in and out of the lineup since, so keep an eye on there. It's getting rough again.
Yeah, Francisco Lindor just comes off of the IL. I think he had like 3 games, and then he comes back and plays, and now he's back on the IL. So I feel really bad for him. Mookie Betts did play really good. He put up some great numbers. He actually was a close third in my player of the week. He put up some huge numbers just in 2 games. But it makes me wonder, like I put in our power rankings, it makes me wonder what the next few weeks are going to look like if they can't get him healthy. Especially, this week they're playing the Giants right now, so it really is going to be a telltale for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah, quick score update. They just finished the first quarter in Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Milwaukee trying to win the last 4 to win the championship. Milwaukee leads Phoenix 29-16 after the first quarter, as I get one step closer to being right in my prediction of Bucks in 6. Also going on right now, and I haven't been able to check in on it at all because we're getting the show ready. I got the Yankee game on the other monitor. But on YouTube right now, right, let me double check that the game's not over. It is in the top of the 8th inning right now. Baltimore and Tampa Bay leading 5-3, top of the 8th inning. It is the YouTube free game of the week over there. It is the first time in baseball or Major League Baseball history that the entire broadcast team are women. And that's cool. And I'm very happy to see it. I'm also happy to see, again, I don't watch a lot of Baltimore games. And when I do watch Baltimore games, it's against the Yankees, so I'm watching the Yankee broadcast anyways. But I didn't know that the Orioles had a female play-by-play announcer, and that's badass, and I love it. But Melanie Newman over there doing the play-by-play. You have MLB.com writer Sarah Langs, who's in there doing the in-booth analysis. You have Elena Rizzo as the on-field reporter, and then Heidi Watney, who I know from MLB The Show, and Lauren Gardner are doing the pre and post game shows. So just a cool thing for Baltimore to do. And honestly, with the way the team's going, it's the greatest thing they've done all season.
Yeah, I'm excited with what they're doing. It is unbelievable to see some of these women start getting their chance to do this and have a great time with it. two people that really stand out in my mind that have done uh, some play-by-play stuff, and for me, that sticks in my head all the time is Beth Mowins from ESPN. I love listening to her do softball, college softball. She has done a few baseball games sitting in for ESPN over the years, but hearing her analysis on on softball is unbelievable. Robin Roberts, when she was doing stuff, she was out there. I love that, and there's other ones that I love listening to. Most notably NBA would be Hannah Storm, NFL, Aaron Andrews, listening to her commentating. But the one that I'm more impressed with, and it might be just because I watched the game on AFL, the game there the other night with Western, was Kelly Underwood. Kelly was doing, and I'm brand new to AFL. So I'm listening to AFL. She was the main commentator for the Western game that was the Sunday night footy game for AFL, and she did a bang up job. I enjoyed listening to her over some of these other guys that I've heard commentating so far this year. So I'm excited to hopefully hear her a few more times over the next few. But more power to them. I'm excited to see some of these women take the next step and do more play-by-play.
Absolutely. Doris Burke is the one for me. She's been fantastic. She does all sorts of sports. She's on a Dude Perfect video, which I thought was a lot of fun doing commentary for that. It was great.
Yeah, I think Holly Rowe. I mean, there's some big names of reporters and people, analysts that have done really well that are female. I'm highly impressed. So
yeah. Trade news: Jock Peterson gets traded from the Cubs to the Braves. Obviously, that is a quick move due to the Ronald Acuna injury. Obviously, it's nice to see Atlanta not just throwing in the towel on the season. With the way the NL East is going, they feel like they still have a shot. But that just brings up the fact that the trade deadline is just 11 days away. It has been not the most exciting over the past few years. Last year, especially, because you had no idea what was going to happen. Everyone was in it with extra teams making the playoffs, and it's only a 60-game season, so everyone kind of stood pat last year. But we're going to go through, because we love to do lists. We're going to each give our 5 players we expect to see moved by the deadline. And we have some that are very much the same, so we won't waste your time by breaking them down multiple times. So when they go on one list, we will both talk about it and say that they're on our list. But who is your number 5, sir?
My number 5, it's got to be Starling Marte. I think he was going to be moved anyway, partially through the year. I look for him to get to a contending team. I think, honestly, and I think he would be a great fit for your New York Yankees. I could see him in an AL East team. I think he would bring a little bit of a spark fire to your Yankee ball club, and your Yankee ball club is a buyer right now.
Yes, 100%. But I do think that they are going after a different outfielder. But I would rather have Starling Marte. And the trade could work out. Obviously, you have Jeter owning the Marlins, so they could work something out. But no, the Marlins and Marte have already shut down talks on an extension, which just adds fuel to that fire that he will be moved in the next week and a half. It's just to where and how long until they find that right deal. But yes, I'm with you. He was my number 1 on my list because I think for sure he is going to get moved. My number 5 is on the Arizona Diamondbacks, and that is infielder Eduardo Escobar, who's been having a pretty decent season for a team that is so bad. He's one of the last veterans they have left, and I definitely expect him to get moved. And if we're doing predictions, I'll say he stays in the National League.
I could easily see him staying somewhere in the National League. But, I'm more excited that, if he does stay there, that keeps him on your Arizona Diamondback team that you did pick. So you do have 3 of the bottom. Sorry, I don't mean to keep taking a stab.
It hurts a lot.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think he stays somewhere in the NL. Um, but where, I don't see him going to the Dodgers or to the Giants. Either one, he could make a presence a little bit, maybe in Colorado. I don't think he gets near as much time there, but yeah, I think he stays NL.
All right, who do you got for number 4?
For me, and he's just has played unbelievable lights out. He's in his contract year 2. But that's Joey Gallo. I think he has played unbelievable for the Rangers, being an all-star and being there. I do think he's on the move, but it might be closer to right at the trade deadline. As far as where he goes, there's lots of places I think he could end up. He could end up in New York. He could end up with the Blue Jays. The other one, he could easily end up in Atlanta. I think Atlanta might be a good fit for him. So a lot could happen. Throwing names around there with Jock Peterson getting picked up earlier, it could be an easy, quick move again. Jock come in, Jock go bye bye. If they could make a Gallo move. I think I would rather have Gallo than Jock Peterson, but I think he is a move. I think he is going to be a last minute move, though.
He's going to the Yankees. The Yankees want him. He's a power guy. He's one of those guys that bats 220 and hits 30 home runs. It's what the Yankees like. I'd rather have Marte, but Gallo will be a Yankee by the beginning of August. My number 4 is Trevor Story. Obviously, the reports have already come out that Colorado did not want to trade him before the All-Star game because they wanted him to kind of have that send-off because it was in Coors. The All-Star game is behind us. He will be moved. I would be surprised if he stayed in Colorado after the deadline.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think I had Trevor as my number 2, and that's the thing. I mean, there was so much swirling around this there at the very beginning of the year. Look for him to be moved pretty darn quick here in the next couple days.
My number 3 is Nelson Cruz, designated hitter of Minnesota. I see them selling a bunch. If Byron Buxton was healthy, I could see them move him. They could move Josh Donaldson. But Nelson Cruz is the big one. Obviously, one of the better bats. The dude is 137 years old and continues to rake. Did you know he stole a base last week?
I did not know that.
He stole a base of all things. Obviously, he has to stay in the American League for DH purposes. A team that's just battling for a wild card and trying to get in that needs that one extra bat. An Oakland, a Toronto, I think would be perfect for him. But yeah, I think Cruz gets moved. Who is your number 3?
My number 3, and I'm going to also say Nelson Cruz was my number 1, so I will chime in. We don't want to revisit him,
Right.
but my number 1, yeah, I'm 100%. He is an old man. He's going to stay in the AL, but he will be on the move pretty quick. So my number 3 might shock you a little bit, but I think he is on the move, and that's going to be Chris Bryant. Chris Bryant has played some okay baseball this year. I had him down as a third baseman. I didn't realize he was playing as much outfield as he has been playing this year. But I think he leads the Cubs. The Cubs are sellers. They have to move on. Where he goes, it might shock you. A good place might be the Yankees. Might be the Brewers
every time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're all about buy-in right now. But there's 2 teams that could easily fit him probably the best. And one of them, we talked about him getting hurt a little bit ago, Francisco Lindor. He would be a great fit for the Mets to move up there. And go ahead and say it. The Mariners. I am going to be a homer. Yes, he could be a great fit for the Mariners. They got Kyle Seager. Kyle's getting a little bit older. Chris is a little bit younger. He could easily be third base. He could get some time DHing. Also in left field, Fairley did get hurt, so he hasn't been playing much. Kelnick's still working through his coming back from
Mhm.
Tacoma. So, Chris Bryant could easily be a fit. Sucky part is where and who would Seattle move on from. It'll be quite interesting, but to have him in the lineup with Mitch Haniger, who is getting hot right now, would be a great fit.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I'm trying to figure out where I would see Chris Bryant go. I don't think he's going to the Yankees either. Um, but it's going to be interesting to see if the Cubs do sell or not. It sounds like they're going to be sellers, but how much, how crazy are they going to be as far as the deadline goes? We will see. And the last one I have on here that we have not talked about was my number 2 spot, and that's another Chicago Cub, and that's Craig Kimbrell, who everyone is always looking for relief help come playoff time, but I see him going back to Boston. Like, they have a good closer right now. Workman's been really good, but Kimbrel has had just the most ridiculous season. The Cubs have not lost a game that they led going into the ninth inning. Just, he's been so good. I know he had issues for a year or two when he went to Chicago, but he has fixed it all. And they are now going to move him. And again, I think Boston would be the perfect fit. So there you go. My 5 are Marte, Kimbrel, Cruz, Story, and Escobar. And Roberts were Cruz, Story, Bryant, Gallo, and Marte. And we will see. Hopefully next week when we come back for the show, we have lots of trades to talk about. And maybe the Yankees and Mariners have been a part of it. Unfortunately, the Mariners are kind of in the wild card race, so the Yankees can't get their best players like they usually do. But
Only
maybe
three,
maybe
oh,
next year.
only 3.5 games back out of the wild card right now, and especially with Oakland losing to this last week, it's still up for grabs in that AL West.
Absolutely. Player of the week. I'm gonna go first because Robert stole mine. He got to him
No,
first.
I put mine in there quite early.
I know that's why you stole him because the early bird and all that crap. Give me Tommy Pham of the San Diego Padres. Listen, goes 8 of 12 and scores 8 runs. And I also like that he has 3 times as many walks as strikeouts this week. Just one of those players that has been so hot or cold over the last few years. Anybody that plays fantasy baseball knows. You'll get Tommy Pham, and for a month, you just feel like you have a first round pick with this guy. He's fantastic. And then the next month, he'll bat 211 and get 2 home runs or get hurt. One of the two. But a good week for him on a Padres team that desperately needs it right now as the Dodgers and Giants are trying to run away with that division. But Robert, who's the real player of the week?
I had to narrow it down from 3 different players. I said this: Mitch Haniger, Mookie Betts, and we're playing on a short week now. But I have to go Juan Soto from the National. I mean, he has just been on fire since he came back from the All-Star break.
Yep.
He even talked about getting in the home run derby. Maybe he finds a stroke. Well, guess what, son? He finds his stroke.
Yeah.
He hits 3 home runs on the weekend. Now we're just talking just the weekend. He went 7 of 13 with 3 home runs, a double, 5 runs scored, and then what's he do yesterday? Hits 2 more home runs. So since coming back from the All-Star break, hitting all those home runs, he hits 5, and he has just been lights out this week. And yes, he only played 3 games and then played yesterday, but hats off to that guy. He has played unbelievable ball.
Yeah, and he has a RBI single today. He's just been so good. And like you said, he said it perfectly that he was hitting too many ground balls and he wasn't able to get it up in the air. And he was hoping doing the home run derby could help fix that swing. And oh boy, has it ever. All right, series of the week that we want to watch. And Robert again comes in here and puts 37 series down. So I'll bring up the 2. I brought up one that's going on right now, one that'll be on the weekend. The series going on right now, just because game 1 was so nuts, and I watched a bit of that. Mets and Reds, a lot of playoff implications. The Mets won game 1, 15-11, and 11 innings. They both scored in the 10th inning. A bunch of runs scored. Right now, Cincinnati is leading the Mets 4-2 in the top of the 8th, but the Mets have 1 runner on with 1 out, and we'll get to that full scoreboard here in a minute. And then over the weekend, I'm very interested in this one. Again, two teams battling right now for possible wild card spots. One team kind of going down, but they do take 2 or 3 of Oakland, and that's where I have a question for you, Robert. You get the Rays and the Indians. And I realized when we were putting everything together, and I'm not blaming you because I dropped them as well, but the Indians take 2 or 3 from Oakland, and we dropped them in our rankings. Both of us did. Were we too harsh on Cleveland?
I don't know. It's just I don't see Cleveland staying up there. I think they're going to be sellers here in the next 11 days. So
And that was my thing too. Once I looked at it, I think we just were too high for too long, and we're too afraid to drop them earlier. And now we're just kind of correcting it.
Yeah, I think we're just playing catch up there. But I have to admit, and one other tidbit in that series you talked about going on right now with the Mets and Cincinnati. Yesterday, the Mets hit 7 home runs. I mean, it's just nuts to think about what this ball club is capable of. But we've talked about it. I think that division is going to be down to the wire. Who's going to win that division? So, Mets, Nationals, Atlanta. Look to see who they're playing. That might be an interesting series. But you and I talked about it this week. If you look at the entire schedule, it is probably one of the best weeks of the season, of all the matchups, of who you got, where you're at. And for me, early in the week, I'm going to take as much as we've been on the NL West. Give me the Blue Jays and Red Sox. We do know that yesterday it was not a pretty game for the Blue Jays. It was
so bad that it rained today.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And so that was the one I had for the early week. And then I had 2 matchups in the Thursday, Friday, Saturday weekend one. I had your Yankees and your and the Red Sox again.
Don't call the Red Sox mine.
Your rival
tongue.
But I'm going to go the other direction. And I'm going to go with the Milwaukee Brewers. They have been so hot here lately. Give me Milwaukee and Chicago White Sox. I think it'll be an unbelievable series in Milwaukee.
All right, real quick, give me your top 5 for power rankings this week.
My top 5 didn't change a ton other than Milwaukee makes their move up and in. I'm going to drop Chicago out, but they're sitting right there with it. So for me, from 1 to 5, I'm going to take the Dodgers, the Giants, the Brewers, the Astros, and the Red Sox.
For me, my top 5, Dodgers stay at number 1, Giants right there with them. That could very much change if the Giants win that series this weekend. The Giants did win yesterday. The game 2 will start in about 10-15 minutes. To me, the best team in the American League right now is the Chicago White Sox, but it's very, very close. Houston Astros are my 4th team. San Diego is 5, and then I'm with you. Boston is right there. I think it's a 6-team race right now as far as who is battling it out for our top 5. And I just got to bring it up. Stop putting Seattle over the Yankees. We beat you in that series, so knock it off.
Hey, but I think yours moved up just because of the formula moved yours up over the top, if I remember right.
It's because the Yankees are better than the Mariners.
I'm a disagree 100%.
Well, 2 out of 3. That's all I have to say. At your field, sir. We got 2 minutes left before we get into our football half hour. So let's do a quick MLB scoreboard update. Finals so far: Kansas City beat Milwaukee 5-2. Oakland shut out the Angels 6-0. Yankees right now up 4-2 over the Phillies in the top of the 7th, but the Phillies have runners at 1st and 3rd with just 1 out. Washington doubling up the Marlins 6-3 in the top of the 9th inning. Postponed a little bit due to rain. Detroit now 1-0 over Texas in the top of the 3rd. Now bases loaded for the Phillies, by the way. Tampa Bay all over Baltimore 8-3 now in the bottom of the 8th inning. Cincinnati gave up 1 here. So Cincinnati 4, Mets 3 here in the top of the 8th inning. There's 2 outs there. Atlanta 2, San Diego 1 in the bottom of the 8th inning. Chicago just ahead of Minnesota 4-3 in the top of the 6th. Houston pulling away here in the 5th inning. They've scored 4 in the 5th to take a 6-0 lead over Cleveland in the bottom of the 5th. Kyle Tucker just hitting a 2-run shot. By the way, I believe that's the first home run my fantasy team has had this week that wasn't a solo shot, so I'm very excited. I'll be texting Richie in a second. St. Louis beating Chicago 4-1 in the bottom of the 5th. Scoreless in Colorado between the Mariners and the Rockies in the 5th inning. Just underway in the bottom of the 1st are Arizona and Pittsburgh. And again, here in about 10 minutes, you get San Francisco and the Dodgers. And we got 3 minutes to go in the second quarter of Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Very low-scoring game. 39-36 Phoenix over Milwaukee as they're getting ready to get into halftime. But it is now time for our 30 minutes of NFL talk. So again, if you've been away from the show and you're just now tuning in, 30 minutes every week at 7 p.m. Pacific time, we will get into some NFL news to get you ready for the regular season. And let's start this off with some news. This is our top story, really.
Either one. I think both of them are huge with it, but
Aaron Rodgers rejected his 2-year contract extension. No one cares anymore. He will play for them. It's going to happen. It is too late for them to make a trade. I'm over it. Don't care anymore.
Do you think he makes it to the start of training camp?
No.
I think he holds out for a while.
August 17th. It's a random ass date. Is that even, what day is that? Hold on.
It's like a Monday or Tuesday.
That Monday would be perfect. August 17th is a Tuesday, and that is when he will show up. That's my prediction.
Then we'll have him back on. It'll be news on our show that day.
Yeah. It'll actually be right after our show gets off the air. Aaron Rodgers will say he will come back, so we'll miss out on it because that's how that works. The other big news that came out today, which just really sucks, Cam Akers, who looked like he could have a big season this year for the Rams, has an Achilles tear, so he's out for the season. Is this a big blow for the Rams?
I think so. I think he was going to be a huge part of the offense. Matthew Stafford coming in, he was going to make a difference. They're still going to have Robert Woods. They still have Cooper Kupp. You got to keep saying Cooper Kupp. We love. He's a Northwest boy. He's played quite well over the last couple of years. Deshaun Jackson. Stafford's going to have targets, but now you look at that depth chart and. After I saw the news of it, I decided, okay, I'm going to jump on, see what the other depth chart is for the Rams. And they were extremely fast by pulling Cam Akers out of that depth chart, as he is no longer on the depth chart as of within 10 minutes of hearing that. But tell me, who do you go after? I mean, you got Darrell Henderson Jr., you got Xavier Jones, Jake Funk, and Raymond Callius is right now is your depth chart for the Rams. Do the Rams make a push to go pick up? I'm going to say it just because I heard Max Kellerman talk about it today. Do they go back after Todd Gurley, who's sitting there in free agency? Or who do they go after that's sitting there in free agency to make their team better?
Looking at free agency right now, it's a bit dire. As far as lead backs, you got to hope that Henderson can be it and be the main running back, and then you can just bring in some depth to it because I don't see Xavier Jones, Raymond Callis, Jake Funk, any of these guys to be that big number 2. And there's some names. Todd Gurley could be interesting to get 10 reps a game. Duke Johnson's not terrible, still pretty young. Same with TJ Yeldon, former Jets running back. Talking about young running backs, Frank Gore is still a free agent. I don't think he's announced his retirement yet. How about Frank Gore going back to the NFC West at the young age of 38? Adrian Peterson's still out there. There's a lot of good running backs that could fill a part-time role. Sean McCoy's still out there.
Le'Veon Bell.
No one wants Le'Veon Bell
No,
anymore.
I mean, but that if you're looking for those names, he's still there. Ito Smith, from his time at Atlanta, he's still there. I mean, but yeah, you're exactly right. It's kind of bleak looking of the free agents. There's
as far as that top guy, the guy that you're going to bring
right.
in and have him rush it 20 times, but you just have to hope Henderson's that guy and he can run it 20 times. And then you bring in a role player, which I think, honestly, I'm bringing in Todd Gurley. Just to be that potential, give him 10 carries a game. And if he can find that spark, I mean, he's only 28 or 27 years old right now. If he can find that spark again, he could lead you to the Super Bowl.
Well, I think so. I mean, he's still still got some legs under him. I mean, he's not the Todd Gurley that we have known for a long time. Yeah, he's 27 years old. He's still capable of running the ball. Is he that bully over guy like he used to be? No, I think he's going to have a little help. And like you said, maybe 10, 15 carries if you're lucky. But I do like that spot. I mean, could AP be there? I doubt it, just because of age, where he's almost 30, 37 years old. And you look at some of the ages of some of these who's capable. Todd Gurley's 27, Duke Johnson's 28, TJ Yeldon 28. I mean, those are the youngest ones on that list that stand out. So,
and again, as far as Gurley goes, maybe it becomes an issue because the Rams are in the bottom 10 in cap space. According to overthecap.com, they only have just under $7 million left, which I think you can afford Gurley with that amount. I don't think he's going to be asking for $8 million a year after the couple of years that he's had, but that doesn't leave you a lot of room for anything else that goes down. So maybe going for a Duke Johnson, it would be a bit cheaper. But yeah, it'll be really interesting. And this is not what we like to see in the offseason, but it happens every single year. Also, Hall of Fame inductees, because there's so many of them, are going to keep speeches under 6 minutes. Good luck getting a big giant lineman to get off the stage after 6 minutes. Go. Who are you going to have come out there and tell him to get off the stage?
Yeah, no kidding. And that's part of the reason they're splitting things up this year. They're going to have the 2020 folks talk on Saturday. I am a little shocked at the time start. They're not starting until 6:30 Eastern time, 3:30 Pacific, to try to get through all of the speeches of the 20 inductees on Saturday. Hall of Fame guys, you need to make a change on that one. Start it somewhat earlier. You need to give yourself another 3 more hours in that, at least for the 2020 crew, as there's 20 of them coming in. You look at the 2021 group, they're starting at 4:00. There is 8 of them, but to hear Peyton Manning say, well, I've got mine down to 7 minutes and 50 seconds. You know darn good well that he will be easily over and probably close to 10 minutes.
Oh, without a doubt. And again, who's going to actually go out there and tell him no?
Yeah, then no kidding. And especially some of those other ones. Bill Cowher. You're going to go out there and tell me Bill Cowher on Saturday that you're not going to talk for only 10 minutes? Come on. But you look at who has the record. Ed Reed, and I think his speech is like 39 minutes, for speaking. It'll be interesting to see the list. And
you just say the longest was 39 minutes?
Yeah, I think the longest one I read.
Nothing compared to WWE Hall of Fame speeches. Oh,
no.
God. Hillbilly Jim probably did that in his first page.
Yeah. Well, and you in the article I read, it's like Ed Reed was like 39 minutes, and so it'll be interesting to see because I don't think they have come out with the order yet and who's speaking in what order, but
Mhm.
you got Jimmy Johnson also.
All right.
Jimmy John,
I don't
Jimmy
want them to
Johnson's
be
going to be.
6 minutes. That's the
I don't
problem.
either. I don't either.
Real quick, because I don't want to get into it. This was almost my top story. Then I didn't feel like talking about it for 15 minutes. I'm just going to ask you one question with the Richard Sherman stuff that's going on. If you want details, go look it up. Does Richard Sherman play this year?
I have no clue. What's sad is to know the details behind it, where what he was accused of breaking and entering, and it being your in-laws' house, but then your wife is backing you. I I think there's going to be a lot more issues going on there. I don't think anybody takes a chance and signs him at
They
all.
will.
Where does he go? Does he play in Washington where all this went down? Does he play for Seattle where he's closer to home?
It's one of two teams, and I think it's always been one of two teams, and it's exactly that. It's Seattle because it's close to home, and it's a place that he's used to, or it's New York because of the coaching staff with the Jets. It's always been one of those two to me. And maybe now with everything that's going on, and hopefully he gets the help he needs, but maybe New York's the better option for his sake. Um, and yeah, Chris just brings up he's worried about CTE with Sherman, and that is very serious. And I'm with Chris on that. I hope he doesn't play this year. I've never been the biggest Richard Sherman fan to begin with, but I hope he doesn't, and I hope he gets the help he needs for any of that, especially if it is CTE related. Go get things checked out. Um, I think football should be secondary for him right
Mhm.
now, and especially if it has to do with that kind of stuff because we've seen what that can do.
Yeah, and I'm not going to take anything away from Richard Sherman because he is one of the smartest people to ever play the game, and for his position, you know, the high graduate he is from college, but you know, he was not over the last couple of years. It's not the same lockdown corner that it used to be. Don't throw it my way. Over the last 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
you've seen people attack him. He's not that same person that he was years ago. But you know, you hate to see anybody get injured, head injuries like that. I mean, we focus on that stuff so much now, even at the junior high level, high school level. That's stuff we don't mess with. You have any kind of symptom, you're done for the, and you're done until you get a release with the medical and all that. So think about how many games that man has went through, and when he played with the Legion of Boom, they hit hard. Trust me, they
Mm-hmm.
they they taught to hit hard with even with all the heads up tackling that came out from Pete Carroll and all those guys, and the way they taught them how to hit. But I feel for the guy, but you might be right. Get him farther out of the Northwest might be the smartest thing for
Yeah.
him.
But again, I just don't think he should play this year. Especially, he's admitted he's got stuff going on that he's dealing with. Go deal with that. You've got
Mm-hmm.
money. Go deal with it. Let's get into. We don't do a lot of fantasy football talk here. We'll talk about our teams every so often and have fun that way. But I felt that was the best way for us to kind of break down some of these positions and get everybody ready for the season, get everyone ready for their fantasy drafts when they come up. But we are going to give you our top 10 wide receivers that we feel are going to have the biggest seasons as far as fantasy goes. We're going to use PPR rankings just to give you an insight there. But over most of it is just basically here are the 10 best guys and the guys we're most excited to see this year. And I will go first because Robert's a homer with his number 10. And again, for the sake of time, or do you want to start at one? Let's start at one and we'll
You
go
want
down.
you
Yeah,
want to go that way?
let's start at one just because then when the other person chimes in, they can say they had him somewhere else.
Okay.
Um, for me, the best wide receiver, and it's kind of pending if Aaron Rodgers plays or not, but I do predict that he will. And even if not, Jordan Love will only throw it to Devontae Adams, and that is why Adams is my number one wide receiver this year. 115 receptions last year on 149 targets, had just under 1,400 yards, and the big one, 18 touchdowns. He is the go-to guy in the red zone, whether it's Aaron Rodgers or Jordan Love. He is going to put up the touchdowns, and he's going to do it again this year.
So I want to know, did Haley put you up to put him
Haley has
number
not
one?
even seen my list.
All right. Hey, he is a great player. I think he will get his touches. But for me, it just kind of depended on where the whole thing was with sorry. Depends on what happens with Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love. I think not having that consistency, if we start with Jordan Love and Aaron holds out, it's a lot to digest in there.
Mm-hmm.
He will get his touches, but I think he gets a little bit more double teamed this year. So I have him down my list. Maybe I went a little too far down my list, but I have him at number 5.
That's way too far. Way too far. Who's your number one?
I've got to go with Stephon Diggs, man. Stephon Diggs. Yeah. I like that comment. We haven't got to quarterbacks. Quarterbacks will be the last one we get to there, Haley. But give me Stephon Diggs. I mean, the chemistry between him and there in Buffalo, it is just going to be unbelievable with him and Allen. Stephon, 127 receptions last year off of 166 targets, 1,500 yards, just over 1,500 yards. The touchdowns need to come up. I think that will happen a little bit more this year. So give me Stephon. He'll be my first pick in fantasy football this year.
Overall?
Maybe.
For me, my number 2 was Stephon Diggs. Again, it was the touchdown numbers that might put him down as far as points go. Very dynamic wide receiver, as you brought up. The perfect fit with Josh Allen, with how strong Allen's arm is and how fast Diggs is. They've made those big plays. It was just weird that it didn't equate to more touchdowns. Only 8 last year. I see that going up, but he did lead the league in yardage and receptions. So you get a couple extra touchdowns in there, and he's easily the number 1 guy. So he is my number 2. Who's your number 2?
My number 2, I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill. Tyreek has played unbelievable ball with Patrick Mahomes. I'm looking for a little bit more out of the coaching staff this year to try to scheme a little bit different with Tyreek Hill, as he was covered a lot more. Got to find a way to get him open, as he only had 87 receptions. And I say only 87 receptions. He still had over 1,200 yards, almost 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns. I really think he if they get a little bit different scheme with him, look for him to get more touches, but maybe not as many yards. Probably the same amount of yards, I would think. But get him the ball a little bit more than what he was. I think the touchdowns will be about the same. He'll be in the teens, probably 12, 13 in there. But I just want to see him touch the ball a little bit more. He can make a lot of things happen with his feet.
I had Tyreek Hill as my number 3. I think the top 3 are very interchangeable, though. I'm very curious to see how Hill's season goes, as once again, there are so many mouths to feed in Kansas City, but you have Patrick Mahomes there, who is able to make sure everyone gets fed and everyone gets their numbers. With Sammy Watkins leaving Kansas City to go to Baltimore, it kind of takes one of the extra speed guys on the other side away. So now does that mean Tyreek Hill gets even more attention? Well, he's going to get more attention, but is it going to be from Mahomes or the defense? Are they going to be able to double team him more now that they're going to have one less speedy guy to worry about? I mean, Hardman's pretty fast. They always find somebody that's fast to put over there at the number 2. it's just with Kelsey there and CEH, who I think is going to take a big step forward. Hill's a fantastic receiver and easily one of the best in the league. But when it comes to fantasy, I think he's just behind Diggs and Adams. So who's your number three?
My number three, I am going to the land of the sun, and I'm going to take DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's going to have a great year with Kyler Murray opposite of AJ Green. Look for them to find a little bit more balance in the offense. That might keep Hopkins open a little bit better. Having James Conner there. They'll also have Chase Edmonds. I just like the fit of what the is happening. Kyler Murray, he is getting into the flow of it. He's getting a lot more smarter. A couple years under his belt, he's maturing. It's a couple years, I think, if they can keep the offensive line healthy, having Pugh, having Justin Murray, Calvin Beachum, if they can keep those guys healthy and play quite well offensively, look for Kyler Murray to spread the ball around a lot more and get it down to Hopkins. So, the other part of that, Hopkins was great, 115 catches. I would like a few more touchdowns out of him, which I think will happen.
Yeah. And just as has been the trend, you were too mean on Devontae Adams, but other than that, we've been exactly the same. As Hopkins is my number 4. As you said, 160 targets is such a big number, and now you don't have Larry Fitzgerald this year from the looks of it. So there could be even more targets his way. Touchdowns, again, only 6, which is shocking. You got to expect that's going to go up. Does Kyler Murray be able to take that next step forward is the big question. I think it's a very high-powered offense, and the numbers are going to be there. It's just I'm more down on Kyler Murray than I think most people are, and it'll be interesting to see how this year goes. But Hopkins still fantastic talent, so he's my number 4. So how about your number 4, sir?
My number 4 is I am going down to Atlanta. I think Calvin Ridley, with Julio leaving, he's going to get a few more touches. This is a put up or shut up year for Matt Ryan. If he's got to make something happen with Calvin there. You look at that ball club and where they need to be by about the middle of the season. They've got to be somewhere in the hunt about the middle of the season. It's going to be interesting to see how they integrate Kyle Pitts into that. With having Kyle Pitts there, does that open him up a little bit more? It'll be interesting to see how that happens. He did get almost 1,400 yards, almost hit the I think he had 9 touchdowns, almost hit 10 touchdowns this last year. I think it's a possibility. Julio not being there and the number 1 tight end coming off the board in Kyle Pitts, it's going to be an interesting team to watch. But I think it's going to be interesting about the midpoint season. They'll get a little bit of rhythm. They might fall a little short in the first part of the season, but by mid-season, I think that team will be clicking quite well.
I don't know if they're going to click at all, but Calvin Ridley is going to be a fantastic receiver, especially in fantasy with Julio gone. He was already very, very good. I believe the best number 2 in the sport, now being that main guy. He's going to get the bump that Julio Jones got when Roddy White left Atlanta. So that's why I have him at my number 5, which you have Devontae Adams as your number 5. So we have the same top 5. You just hate Adams for some reason. Let's go to my number 6, and we'll go to Minnesota and Justin Jefferson. I think he takes a big step forward. Thielen has not been the same guy over the last couple of years. Obviously, Diggs left last year. Jefferson taking his space. I predict Justin Jefferson to get over 110 receptions this year. He only had 88 last year. 110 receptions and 10 touchdowns. That's my prediction for Justin.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I have him at number 7, but I do agree with you. I think he will get over 100 catches this year. I think he is going to be that guy. It'll be interesting to see the chemistry happening there with him being probably the main guy. Thielen just has not looked good the last few years. I picked Thielen early. I want to say I picked him in like that 4th round in our league, and Thielen just kind of is not the same guy. I think Justin's going to do well. But I don't have him above this guy. For my number 6, though, I am taking DK Metcalf. I mean, DK has been that deep threat this last couple of years. It's time for Seattle to make something happen with this ball club. They just have not. I don't think they've fed him the ball as much. I mean, they tried to get it to Tyler Lockett. They've got some great looks. Chris Carson, Rashad Penny, catching the ball out of the backfield. They need to get DK a few more touches, and I think that'll happen. He was targeted almost 130 times, 129 times. He had 1,300 yards and 10 catches. Just keep feeding the ball. I think he gets 100 receptions.
I don't know. And honestly, in the first 4 weeks, you might look like a genius because Seattle loves to just throw the ball all over the place to start, and then they get into the running game, and then he falls off. So I have him number 10. He's still in my top 10. But I'm a little worried about the Seattle game plan. They always go, oh, we're going to let Russ cook. It's going to be great. And then Russ has these historic numbers, and they go, no, hold on just a little bit. Let's slow things down. Let's see. You had Jefferson at 7. My number 7. We gotta go quick because we got 4 minutes left in the NFL half hour. Number 7 for me, AJ Brown. It's gonna be interesting with Julio there. I don't think Julio is going to have as much of an impact as some people think, but it will take some numbers away from Brown. He had a good year, 70 catches, 11 touchdowns. So he'll be good, but not elite like a lot of people think he could have been. Julio will just keep him away just that much. Let's see. Who's your number 8?
My number 8, I had Michael Thomas. I think Michael, it'll be interesting to see how they adapt. Only had 40 receptions on 55 targets, not play very much at all last year. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in the quarterback position. Taysom Hill throwing the ball. I'm excited to see him. He's got to stay healthy. Michael Thomas has got to be healthy, but he is a game changer. I think he will take that pressure that what was Drew Brees, Drew Brees being the face of that team. I think that goes a little bit more onto Michael Thomas's shoulders there. So I like him at the 8 spot.
Let's see. My number 8 is Keenan Allen, Mr. Consistency when healthy. Still got 100 catches. Herbert has been absolutely fantastic. He goes under 1,000 yards with his 100 catches. It's a lot of dink and dunks, but with PPR, those 100 catches mean a lot. And I think he and Herbert are going to take another step forward this year. He's just one of those, you draft him. That's not a sexy pick. Nobody goes, ooh, that's a great pick. Even some people go, I don't know about that one. And he always delivers. And that's what he's going to do again. So that's my number 8. My number 9 is Michael Thomas. We'll see what happens there. Your number 9 was A.J. Brown. My number 10 was DK Metcalf. And that leaves you with your number 10. You homer piece of crap.
No, I don't see it. But you did make a statement earlier when you were talking about Stephon Diggs, and this is why I say so. They're looking, yes, I am going to, quote me on it, I am taking Marquise Hollywood Brown. I think he has a breakout year. It'll be his 3rd year. I think he's going to be good. Sammy Watkins coming to Baltimore will take a little bit of that double team away from him. I like that idea. He can be that fast speedster down a little bit more. Lamar has to throw the ball more than what he has the last couple of years. I think they start scheming that way a little bit more. Trust me, Lamar's still going to get his runs. He's still going to be running, but it will be nice to see him get the ball down there. I think Marquise has a great season. Marquise had 58 receptions last year, 770 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns. Look for him to have at least 10 touchdowns this year.
All right, so there you go. Those are our top 10 wide receivers. Next week, we will do top 10 running backs, and we will get into that. Let us know if there's anything else you want us to talk about in this half hour. We'll try to speed up this a little bit. We had more stuff we wanted to talk about, but breaking down players goes really it takes a bit of time. So we'll work on the outline a little bit and try to work on it as we go forward. We're learning as we go. But that is your 30-minute NFL power break. I don't know. I'll work on the name. Let's get back into the NBA again. Game 6 going on right now. Milwaukee has won the last 3 to take a 3-2 series lead, as they are trying to make me sound as smart as possible. As I said, Bucks in 6 right now. A few minutes into the third quarter, Phoenix has actually jumped back and taken the lead 55-50. The Suns outscored the Bucks 31-13 in the second quarter, and Giannis has 23 of the 50 points for the Bucks. As the Bucks
most underrated superstar in NBA.
I've heard that argument, and I might not disagree with it. Bucks right now, though, only shooting 36%. So we will see what happens there. Some NHL news for you. Any Seattle Kraken fans like myself, you get to figure out who you get to root for starting tomorrow, as the player list will be announced for the Seattle Kraken. The expansion draft pool was created over the weekend. Mike Mitchell and I were discussing it. Basically, different teams could keep, what was it, like a goalie or 2 goalies, one of the two, and 8 different skaters, I think, is who they could protect. Everyone else went into the pool that Seattle Kraken could pick and take on their contracts and stuff. So there's some good players, obviously, out there that are going to be spendy. There's going to be some younger players. They've made it a little nicer. You saw that with Vegas, who came into the expansion team and went to the Stanley Cup Finals. I don't expect that to happen for the Kraken, but yeah, I'm going to be tuning in on Wednesday to kind of see what kind of a team Seattle's going to have. What about you?
Yeah, I'm quite interested. You and I have been talking about it. It's nice to see things getting back into Seattle. Now, if we could just get the Supersonics back, it'd be nice. But, that's not going to happen for a little bit. But, yes, I'm excited. You and I haven't had the chance to talk about it, but we might miss a night of bowling to go up and watch Kraken play in Spokane. If you're up here in the Pacific Northwest and our inland Northwest, the Kraken will be playing a preseason game, September 26th, Spokane Arena. So that might be a road trip to go up and watch the Krakens play. But, yeah, I'm excited to see it happen. The Northwest needed a hockey team, so I'm excited.
Very, very, very excited. It's the first time I've ever switched allegiances with a team. Ever. And the funny thing is, I did it when they announced that Seattle was getting a hockey team. I was out of hockey for a while. So I figured that's the sport to do it in. I haven't really followed the Buffalo Sabres in a while, so I don't feel bad for doing it. And then it comes out the other day of Stanley Cup champion odds for next year. If you wanted to pick the Seattle Kraken right now, who do not have a single player on their team, they would give you 200-1 odds that the Kraken would win the Stanley Cup. If you want to pick the Buffalo Sabres, who have a team, they have players on their team, they're 400-1. So apparently I've already made the best move.
I think that is a best move already. It's going to be nice to see what happens with that team, and I'm just more excited for the Northwest just to have somebody to get behind, and so I might be making a bet when we get down to Vegas in May. You never know. It'll be interesting.
Go crack and go. But Robert, speaking of Spokane.
Yeah, speaking of Spokane, I kind of got a little surprise this week as we had talked about it on the show a couple weeks ago. We need to make a road trip up to the Shock, and we were talking about it. And the wife surprised me and ended up buying tickets and getting a hotel room. We went up and watched the Spokane Shock take on. Get this again. I still laugh at the name. I laughed the entire time we were up there. The Tucson Sugar Skulls. And should have been an easy win for the Shock.
You can't. Do not disrespect the Sugar Skulls.
Hey, it was. They should have easily won that game. It ended up being a 9-point game, but the Sugar Skulls kept it close. Some odd penalties that should have never happened. With Spokane not kicking the ball deep a couple of times. They left the Sugar Skulls stay in there. Sugar Skulls have an ex-Baltimore Raven. Matt Elam is one of their D-backs, so great. But it was a great game. Like I said, the Shock ended up winning that one 45-34, and they made 45 points, so I got a free Doritos taco from Taco Bell. You missed out on that. So anyway, the Shock are still 6-2 on the season, still sitting in third place, right behind the Arizona Rattlers and the Frisco Fighters. Both of those ball clubs we're going to get to face again here very soon. The Skulls had 68 yards rush.
Haley, what are you trying to message? You a blank message over here.
The Shock had 124 yards rushing. Devontae Sapp Lynch looked really, really good. 60 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. Must have been because Mom, Delisa Lynch, was there in attendance. I looked around, looked up in the press box thinking, well, maybe Marshawn's around there. Didn't see him anywhere. Mark Rippon walked by us about 4 or 5 times, but lots of action there. They are back in action as they head down to Albuquerque this next weekend to take on the Duke City Gladiators. So it'll be interesting to see where they are in the next week or so.
Haley posted a Sugar Skull that doesn't pop up on our thing. Did you ask Mark Rippon to do his big fist pump as he was walking by you? Just
no,
the old Super Bowl move?
So here's the thing. Denise told me, I looked at him when he walked by us the first time. I thought, that's Mark Rippon. And I pulled it up and I showed Denise. I said, that's Mark Rippon walking by. He had his grandson with him, so he was walking back and forth, but he was right there at the bottom. But towards the end of the game, Denise said, go down and introduce yourself. Get a picture with him. You could have posted it. And I was like, nah. He's down there talking and mingling with everybody. But he is living up in Spokane. And I am 100% sure that was him, as he had is a Shadle Park alum. So I'm thinking if Denise and I are actually thinking about it in 2 weeks, so roughly 12 days from now, they will be taking on Massachusetts. So maybe a quick road trip up to watch them play one more home game, because I won't be able to make the Arizona Rattlers game. But it was so nice to get back in the arena, watch arena football. Yeah, only 187 yards total offense for the Shock, 180 total offensive yards for the Sugar Skulls. So, but it was great watching the environment. It was unbelievable. I sent you the video of just them coming out. The fire was unbelievable. But hats off. Blake Sims looked really good for being kind of a journeyman, being the 5th kind of professional team he has played for. He looked really good for the Shock.
Yeah, and I remember we went up there, many moons ago now.
It was 7 years ago.
When Chase was younger,
mm-hmm.
and going to a game. Those are a lot of fun. But I just want to say, well, I respect you as a person for not bugging Mark Rippon when he's with his grandson. Having Mark Rippon on the R&R Sports Report would have been even better. So
and Denise said that. So maybe that is my in with Denise, and said, hey, let's go back up there. We'll probably see him again because we were looking at sitting the seats. There was about 5 rows behind him. There was absolutely nobody sitting there. So, and they caught a football. And once, you know how AFL work. If the football goes in the stands, guess what? You get to keep it. And so he had a football there too. So maybe that's the take your business card. There you go. I like it. Haley's thinking outside the box.
Now we just need one. We need one of those business cards. Apparently, as Estevan Florial with his first career home run for the Yankees as they lead the Phillies 6-3 in the bottom of the 8th. Hopefully, enough runs for Chapman, who is.
And how about the Mariners took a 4-2 lead here in the 6th inning?
It's about time you're playing Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Holographic R&R. There you go. Let's get into some Aussie rules as things continue to just get weird over there as COVID is wreaking havoc. We'll get into that. But last week, Geelong going nuts, sir, destroying Fremantle 100-31.
Yeah, it was not even a ball game. It was unbelievable to watch those guys play. And they're playing without Rowan. They played without Jeremy, and so it was a great game. So now we're getting into the crunch time as we're getting into, I believe, what is it, week 15?
5 weeks left.
15, yeah. So
yeah, and that big win with Brisbane losing puts you 2 games ahead of 5th. So getting closer and closer to being one of those top 4 teams is Geelong, along with Port Adelaide, Western, and Melbourne. Melbourne had a game on their hands they didn't expect against my old Hawthorn Hawks, who ended up with a late goal inside 2 minutes to go to tie that game 79 apiece. Once again, Hawthorn plays really well against the best of the best. And that's it. Once they get against anyone else, they just get completely blown out. But you give them a really, really good team, that's when they shine. It's weird. You look at how Hawthorn has gone this year. You know, I would say losing to Richmond by 29. They're supposed to be a great team, but that didn't work. But Geelong, they only lost by 5. Melbourne did beat them by 50 the first time, but they do beat Adelaide by 3. Lose to North Melbourne, which was embarrassing. But Sydney, who's a playoff team, won that game by 38. Wasn't ever even close. And now here you go, your second time with Melbourne, and you get the tie.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, the one that I was very shocked with was West Coast, and they played Adelaide here this last week, and the scoring at the very beginning was horrendous. I think it was it was like 9-6 after the first quarter. It was nuts, and then all of a sudden the second half they were able to kick things out, and West Coast finally took off, and they're sitting in the 7th seed. They could have been up a little higher, because of points and all that, but they should have easily taken care of Adelaide, but they just hung around there in the first half.
For West Coast, they're the only team with 36 points, and Sydney is in 6th place with 44. So they weren't going to move up at all, but they were able to get that win. Yeah. It was interesting to see that there weren't a lot of matchups of top 8 versus top 8 last week, and it's for the most part the top 8 teams took care of business, so which is a bigger reason why Melbourne getting the draw with Melbourne was such a big thing. And then this week gets even weirder because 3 matchups that were supposed to happen in round 20, which is in 2 weeks, get moved to round 19, which is this week, due to COVID and travel restrictions and everything there. 2 games had issues, but because they have to get all the teams right, a 3rd game got moved so it could all switch. So these 6 teams get affected. Games that got moved up from round 20 to round 19, you're going to get Gold Coast versus Brisbane. You're going to get Adelaide versus Hawthorn, and the big one, number 1 versus number 2, Melbourne versus the Western Bulldogs. If you're going to watch one regular season AFL game, that is the game to watch. So go find it however you can. And then the games that get bumped a week that were supposed to be this week but will be next week, you get Gold Coast versus Melbourne, Western Bulldogs versus Adelaide, and Hawthorn versus Brisbane. And again, this is all in hopes that the extra week will give them time for border restrictions to kind of open up, especially in Victoria, where they're in like their fifth or sixth lockdown with COVID stuff. They do not mess around with it down in Australia. So we will keep an eye out on there. Are you looking up at what games Fox is showing?
Yeah, I was looking right now. So far on Friday night footy, they've got, according to FS2, we've got Sydney versus Fremantle. And then Saturday night, the 8:30 game Pacific time, they've got my Geelong Cats taking on Richmond. And then the late game, they have the Carlton Blues against North Melbourne. So definitely for us, if you're wanting to watch that Melbourne Western Bulldogs, it'll be the next day. Watch it. So I definitely will be watching that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Robert, were you able to stay up or get up early for the Open?
Listen, Denise and I talked about this. I slept like absolute crap this last week. I bad, up every hour kind of thing. I finally just woke up Thursday morning, went out, watched Joel play a little bit. I watched some of the morning golf from like 1:00 in the morning to almost 4 in the morning. Was able to watch it, and then got up and watched the early tournament as they were like it. The leaders were hole 9 by the time I watched on Saturday and Sunday. But Colin Morikawa, let me tell you, this kid, watch for him over the next couple of years. Only 24 years of age. He has now won. He is the first player to win 2 different majors on his very first attempt. And him winning the 2020 PGA Championship and now the 2021 Open. Morikawa just looked unbelievable. 4 under on Sunday for a total 15 under. He was bogey free on Sunday, which, if you go to Royal St. George and go bogey free, same with Royal St. Andrews, any of those over there, if you go bogey free in a round, you're doing pretty darn good. So here's the the big story for me. King Louis Oosthuizen has the lead in the 3rd round and then shoots +1 on Sunday and loses the tournament. And he finishes tied up with John Rahm. John Rahm and Jordan Spieth both looked extremely well, looked really good in that one. So it was Morikawa winning it. Jordan Spieth ends up taking 2nd place, shooting 13 under, and then you had Louis and John Rahm finish tied for a 3rd. For us, we love our local boy. We love Joel. Joel looked unbelievable the first 3 days. He was playing quite well, and like
especially Saturday, where the front 9 was playing horrible for the players, and he goes 3 under in the front 9. Well, I saw a stat because I was working at Lancers our Friday night, or no, it was Saturday. So I had woke up and was tuning in a little late for the 3rd round, so I didn't get to see Joel play at all. I think he was like on the 16th by the time I was able to get up and start watching. And they posted a stat during the 3rd round that the field was like 60 over par in the front 9 and playing under par in the back 9, and Joel did the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm.
He crushed it in the front 9 and struggled. I think he went 1 over that day in the back 9, and then he had a bit of a rough Sunday.
Well, he was under par. Actually, all the first 3 rounds he was under par. But if you go over there and play in England and in Scotland and Ireland, England, anywhere over there, and play on some of these links courses, and you can shoot even par, which is where he finished. He was -4 going into Sunday, and he shot 4 over on Sunday, and so he ended up back even par to go into a links course. Dude, that's unbelievable. I think that is great for him. So he ends up tied for 46, shooting even par, but for what he did, like you said, on the front side compared to what everybody else was, it just is awesome to see what he did. So next up is the 3M TPC in Minnesota this weekend. And Michael Thompson is your defending champion.
I expect not a lot of big names will be in that tournament.
No, not at all.
Take a week off after going over to Britain. And congratulations to Ross Button. He gets a hole-in-one at the Liberty Lake Golf Course, 122-yard par 3. And if you saw the picture he posted, I feel really bad for that hole.
Yeah.
He put a huge divot right next to that hole, or on the inside part of that hole, and took a chunk out of it. But very, very, very cool, and something I will never do.
Yeah, good buddy of ours. We give him a bad time, but unbelievable for him to get his hole-in-one up there. And so looking extremely promising. He's a good golfer too. He was the Idaho coach for a long time.
He's at Gonzaga now.
He's at Gonzaga now. So
NASCAR this week, I was all set to watch the New Hampshire race, and then the rain came, and NASCAR didn't realize it. Anybody watching this race? Did you have seen any highlights or anything yet?
Nope, didn't watch it.
They start the race, and if you do anything to watch NASCAR this week, go watch Radioactive. Robert, I want you, the moment we're done here, go watch Radioactive, or I'll just play it with the way we do you watch baseball with me sometimes. I'll play it before we leave. It's hilarious. So the teams are basically going, there's going to be a light drizzle when we start. NASCAR does not race during the rain because they have slick tires. And then like 2 laps in, all the drivers are going, it's raining. It's still raining. It's getting worse. Please, can we get the caution flag? And I think it's lap 6. Kyle Busch and Martin Truex, who are leading the field into turn 3, and can't stop because now it's too slick. And Kyle Busch wrecks into the wall and is out of the race. Truex gets some damage. He was able to finish. I don't know. Didn't see where he finished. And then you had a long rain delay, and then they got into it. So I didn't get to watch a lot of the race because I had moved on to watch other things. Just insane that NASCAR just let them run that long. And now my first feeling was, okay, this is NASCAR's fault. Just go ahead and let Kyle Busch and Martin Truex and anyone that got damaged from this go in their backup car, make them start in the back of the field like you would at any point that you are using a backup car. But then Twitter helped me realize that with all of the COVID stuff and not having practice and not having qualifying, you only show up and you race. Nobody brings a backup car because at no point is your car going to have any issues before the race happens. So just a complete mess, but it does create a great finish as Eric Almirola, who has not won in a couple years, gets a huge win. He was out of the playoffs, has now stolen a playoff spot, which now, we talked about it last week, there's a big gap between 16th and 17th. Now, because it's basically the teams that were 15th and 16th, it's very close again with 4 races to go. But NASCAR does take a week off, and then they will have back-to-back road courses, starting with the Glen in 2 weeks. So it'll be interesting and give me time to watch some Olympics, I guess, with no NASCAR on.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where we'll be at. Or we'll be closer to our power rankings times a little bit more.
Yeah. All right. Now it is time for this week, sports history.
All right, this week in sports history, July 14th through July 20th, lots of older records. We'll have a couple of them. 1876, baseball's first no-hitter happens. George Bradley of the St. Louis Brown Stockings no-hits the Hartford Dark Blues 2-0. Cy Young wins his 500th game in 1910. He goes on to finish his career with 511 in 1911. 1921, Babe Ruth smacks his longest home run in history, and they still say that it is the longest home run in history for the MLB. There's a couple other AAA games, but he hits that one 575 feet in Detroit's Navin Field. Ty Cobb hits his 4,000th MLB career hit. He does that in 1927. 1941, New York Yankees Joe DiMaggio Joe DiMaggio hitting streak comes to an end in Cleveland. That was on the 17th. That's big memory for you. I know it happens before your time, but you are very aware of your Yankee history.
That hitting streak is something I'm trying to reach on Beat the Streak, the MLB app, where you can win 5.6 million, and I can't get by. I think my longest ever is 14.
Wow.
So 56 is ridiculous.
Yeah, no kidding. 1968, Hank Aaron hits his 500th home run off of San Francisco Giant Mike McCormick. In 1976, we're going to keep it right there. Hank Aaron hits his 755th and last home run off of Angels Dick Drago on the 20th. 1979, the UK Sebastian Coe runs the world record mile in 3 minutes 48.95 seconds. That is now the 8th fastest mile. Coe broke it 2 more times, but is now the fastest mile is now 5 seconds faster at 3 minutes 43 and 13 tenths by Moroccan Hicham El Guerrero.
I was about to say, if that is your trivia question, I quit the show.
No, that is not my trivia question. 1980, Johnny Bench hits his 314th home run as a catcher, which breaks Yogi Berra's record. In 1990, Deion Sanders hits an inside the park home run, and a very controversial home run with that one. Also on that same day, Minnesota is the first team to turn 2 triple plays in the same game, but still lose to the Boston Red Sox 1-0. And then 2011, the only reason I bring this one up is because they really showcased this a lot during the Open. But in 2011, Darren Clark of North Ireland claims his only major title and wins by 3 strokes over Dustin Johnson and Phil Mickelson. They did bring that up a bunch because Darren Clark did play this weekend and had a rough weekend. He did make the weekend, but he had a rough weekend as was. But you could see Darren Clark holding back the tears and that. But to know that he had a great career there, it was awesome.
All right, stump me, sir.
All right, I think both of these are probably pretty easy, but I'm going to give you 2 of them.
Okay, go ahead.
Most home runs by a catcher. Who has that record? I will tell you, Johnny Bench ended up that record in our thing there. I do say Johnny Bench has 314 as a catcher. But he is 3rd on that list. Who is he 3rd on that list to?
I would say Piazza, but I don't think he played long enough. But I'll just say Piazza anyways.
You are correct. Piazza had 399 as a catcher, and that's in 1,700 games. Bench had ended up 356 home runs in 1,800 games. So Piazza, a little bit better power hitter.
2 for 2.
You were good.
2 in a row. 2 weeks in a
row. Number 2 on that list was Carlton Fisk, and he had 366 in 2,400 games. But the big one, Mr. Yankee, here you go.
Yeah. Okay.
I think you know it. I did it because I wanted to make you feel good because it happened.
Thank you.
Who was the team Deion Sanders hit the inside the park against? Who was the starting pitcher and the outfielder of the inside the park home run?
Like I remember any of that from 1990.
Oh,
I was 6. I was 6 years old. And by the way,
this is one of the big.
It's Coach Prime to you, sir.
It is Coach Prime.
I have no idea.
Oh, you are kidding me.
Seattle Mariners, Randy Johnson, Joey Cora. I don't get that.
No, it is. I'm shocked you don't remember this. But as soon as I say this, you're going to go, oh my God, I knew this.
I don't think I've ever seen this.
Deion Sanders hit a inside the park home run against the Kansas City Royals, and Bo Jackson laid out to try to make the diving catch, misses it, and it rolls all the way to Finch against Mel Stottlemyre Jr. So
I've never seen it before.
Bo Jackson comes out after that play, which he is upset about because he had hit 3 home runs in that ball game and was up in the next inning for a chance for 4.
That's crazy. No, I was too young.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't think I've ever seen it. Real fast scoring update. We are all tied at 77 at the end of the third quarter. So right after you get done watching us, or if nobody's watching us, hopefully you enjoyed the fourth quarter of the Suns and the Bucks. If you're watching us late, Yankees did get the victory 6-4 over the Phillies. Right now, Mariners over the Rockies 6-2 in the top of the seventh. Some other finals: Washington beat Miami 6-3. Cincinnati beat the Mets 4-3. Tampa Bay beat Baltimore 9-3, and Atlanta beat San Diego 2-1. Don't forget the trade deadline is about a week and a half away. And next week for the NFL 30-minute power drill thing that we will come up with a name with sometime, we will do the top 10 running backs as well as maybe Randy's Believe It or Not, which we had scheduled for this week, but just had no time. And I'm sure there'll be more news and notes to talk about. The Olympics will have started, so we will get into that.
Cross our fingers they start.
Right. We will see. So lots of sports to talk about as always next week as we get closer and closer to being back in studio and closer to having local sports to talk about. And just one last thing, I'm very excited. The Tribune has taken me on to be a part-time writer, so I will be doing some game recaps and stuff for them. Just more local sports for me, and I'm very excited for the opportunity and to see where it goes. So I'm going to be very busy, and because of that, anybody that has heard me say I've been working with W2M for the last couple of years, I have ended that partnership for now. Obviously, still very good friends with them, Eric and Harry and Jason over at the Kickoff, Jens, who is a partner of mine on Chapter Select, Sean, who's run the whole thing and has given me the opportunity to play all these different games and stuff and work on my craft. It's just with still having to work at Lancers to bring in the money because the Tribune's not going to pay the bills, and having this opportunity with the Tribune and having this radio show and going to school, I figured W2M needed to take a break. But I wanted to, before we got off the air here, thank them very much. And definitely, if anybody watches us, go check them out. But for now, that's Robert. I'm Randy. And we are